When women dare to fully be themselves, to rise up as the divine beings they are, to operate in their magic, their sexuality, their power, they are always labeled one thing: wicked.
Wicked is a podcast for women who dare to walk in their true identity, power, and magic, who go against societal culture of being seen and not heard, who are the black sheep and powerhouses the structure tries to defeat. And here is your shepherd leading you astray, Mystic.
Welcome to this very important epic episode where I am going to share the story of my free birth. I was speaking with somebody this week about free birth, and it made me realize that I haven't shared my story with anybody, and it's been 9 months. And I think that it's important to share my story because women, it's my belief that they are disempowered in our society today. And the root of all of this disempowerment is because birth is stolen from them. The woman has the most powerful job on this planet, and there is no human beings without us. And beyond just bringing population into existence, we are bringing a spirit into human form. And it doesn't matter what your religious belief is, whether you believe in reincarnation or that you only live one lifetime. You can't deny that a spirit is being made into human flesh, and only a woman is capable of that. When a woman is left alone to birth in her power, that's when she realizes how superhuman she is. And that's when she realizes how fucked up this entire system is that runs this world. If the birthing system collapsed tomorrow, women would rise up in great power and take back control of things. Matriarchy would certainly be on the rise because the system, their goal is to keep you disempowered so that you don't recognize just how much say you have and just how much you can do. The medical birthing system, I've spent time trying to come up with a word that I would describe it as, but I can't find one that's disgusting enough to label it. When you consent and you're really gaslit into consenting to everything in that hospital, even beginning in the doctor's office. But when you consent to going there and you make the decision to go there, you have to check your womanhood at the door. Because the doctor tells you they know more about your body than you do. And that the very thing you're on this planet to fucking do, you're not capable of doing. That your body's broken, that it doesn't know how to grow a baby, that you have to give it these scans every so many months or whatever your doctor's doing to bombard it with radiation so they can guess what's going on, just so they can create issues that aren't really there to force you into surgery and to force you on drugs. And when you are in your most vulnerable time, pregnancy and of course during birth, the most vulnerable time for a woman, the system performs medical rape on you. It starts with the first ultrasound. It starts with the testing. And When you are slipping deeper and deeper into that void, when you start the birthing process, they know they have you, and they will scare you into doing whatever they want to fear you into complying. When your mother instinct is going off and you don't want something, what do they tell you? They tell you, shh, we know better. This is to save your baby. And they will lie and tell you that they saved your baby's life and thank God for them, when it's just a bunch of bullshit. So many things that they label medical emergencies are nothing of the sort. And I'm sure there's tons of you listening to this right now that were told your life was saved. And you look at home birth as dangerous because, oh, well, if I did it, me and my baby would have died, or my baby would have died. I can almost guarantee you that that's a lie, and your issue was caused by the hospital itself, because they create the problem so that they can intervene, so that they can look like the hero, and they keep you a victim. Because you're just a little lady that can't make decisions and definitely can't birth a baby. The most powerful thing on this planet is birth. And because they even rob women of their intuition and knowledge of birth itself, the thing they were created to do, it disempowers the woman. Most women walk around today like, oh, I'm just pregnant. Oh, yep, my body just does it. It just grows this whole human fingernails, hairs, bones, organs. It's just expected of you. And then you just go to the hospital and let a man take it out of your body. And it's just, oh, yep, no big deal. But what if you decided you weren't going to enter into that goddamn system that rips you and strips you of your power? What if you decided that you were going to get back into your intuition and go into the void? And you were going to die a death and birth that baby and a mother together as one. It makes me sick to my stomach when I hear the stories of women and what they went through in the hospitals. It brings me to tears every time I hear it. The system is disgusting. When you realize you can birth your baby without any fucking help, and that you know exactly what you're doing because it's instinctually put in your brain, you will never listen to the patriarchy again. You will never let another patriarchal male tell you what the fuck to do or where the fuck to go. You will become wild. And an untamed woman is dangerous to the system. The system has women so programmed that they are not capable, that when other women birth in the system and find out about somebody wanting to home birth, they will literally try to talk that woman out of giving birth at home. This happened to me with my first one. And my first son, I had a home birth, and I did have a midwife in attendance. And I am fucking lucky that my midwife turned out the way she did, because 9 out of 10 are not like the one that I had. Most midwives are medical, and all they are is medical doctors at your house. And they will still shoot you up with pit, and they will still do all of the things and bring you to the hospital and say, if you don't birth by this date, you need to get induced, and they'll still do all the medical things. They're not actual midwives. They're still part of the medical system. And this is why women need to take birth back. When you take that power back, you will start to notice not just motherhood changing, but your entire life in general, because no one can tell you a goddamn thing after that. But as I was saying, when I was pregnant with my first, and people would ask me like who my doctor is, which I don't know why people do that. Why is it your fucking business what doctor I'm seeing? It's just bizarre what people ask like women and in general about their bodies, about like none of this is your business. Even afterwards, are you going to have another one? Why is my sexual reproduction your fucking business? I don't know why. It's like women aren't allowed to have any boundaries or borders. Like everything is fair game when it comes to the women. And this shows in the birthing system when they're sticking vacuums and all kinds of instruments up your vagina while you're giving birth. It's medical rape. Anyway, when women would ask who my doctor is and I'd say, oh no, I'm doing a home birth. Oh my God, the amount of women that tried to talk me out of it was insane. It's like Stockholm syndrome. The system got them, but they're so grateful for their people that are holding them hostage and their abuser that they're trying to convince me I should go be abused too. They would literally tell me a terrible hospital experience and then say, well, thank God for them and you should go there too. It was bizarre to me. So I didn't really tell many people what I was doing because you don't need the doubts. You don't need the raised eyebrows. You don't need nosy neighbors calling CPS on you because they think they know better than you. It is legal to birth your own fucking baby in every single state in this country. So when I had my first son at home, as I said, I lucked out. I told my midwife I didn't want her to do anything but sit on the couch. In all of our prenatal visits, I told her I didn't want to do anything. Once in a while, I peed on a stick. I never weighed myself. I never did anything. And she was cool with that. And she listened to me. My entire birth, she sat on the couch and she didn't really do much. There was one time when I looked over at her, I remember saying, I don't think that I can do this. And she looked back at me and she said, of course you can. This is what you were made for. And that gave me the power to keep going. And in that moment, when I thought of giving up, that's when the doctors and nurses come in and offer you the epidural because they know you're going to fucking take it. And in my head, I kept telling myself, if I was in the hospital, I would get the epidural right now. And that would have sabotaged my birth. In spite of what they tell you, your baby is born high when you take an epidural. You can't take drugs that make you high while you're pregnant, but while you're giving birth, you can take it in the spine through a shot. Can you imagine that? You're shooting up fentanyl. A nurse is shooting you up with fentanyl while you're giving birth, and they're saying that that's okay. This causes so many problems in the birthing procedure because now you can't feel from the waist down. And now they're telling you to push instead of your body doing it naturally. You don't need to push. You'll feel urges if you want and you can go with it sometimes, but your body will push your baby out. It's not going to get stuck in there. And then your baby has breathing problems because it's sedated. It's high. And then if they have problems latching, and then they're crying a lot because they're coming off the drugs. It's a vicious cycle. They know this. Did you know that? When you told them you didn't want drugs or an epidural, did they force it on you and kept telling you, don't be a hero. You can take it. You're not going to get a trophy if you don't take it. You will get a trophy. Your baby won't be born high. You shouldn't have to birth somewhere where you think you're going to need a birth advocate. That's how dangerous our system is, that you need to hire someone to tell the doctors not to go against your wishes when you're in your most vulnerable time. Why are you even subjecting yourself to a system like that? Opt out of it. You shouldn't need an advocate to do something that you were made to do in the most sacred time of your fucking life, doing the most sacred act of bringing a human into existence. You should not need an advocate to tell a doctor to back the fuck up that you don't want drugs, that you don't want to be medically raped, that you don't want their hands inside your vagina, that you just want to lay there and give birth. You shouldn't need an advocate. Stay the fuck home. When I got pregnant this time, I just knew I didn't need a midwife because that one didn't do anything. I literally told her, don't do anything. The only time I felt like I needed her was in that moment when I felt like I was gonna break in two. And that's transition. You hit that part in birth when transition is happening. And when I heard her voice tell me, of course you can, that's all I needed. So the second time around, I didn't need her. She didn't do anything. I didn't even do anything at my prenatal appointments. I was excited because I wanted to spend my pregnancy just being in tune with my baby. trying to be more in tune with my body and how I felt and listen to what I thought it needed. You don't need prenatal care. Sorry, guys. I know you're taught you need ultrasound. Ultrasounds are awful for your baby. Radiation. That's why they always move. That your baby's fucking smart. It moves away from the ultrasound waves. It happens to everybody. And then they'll joke, oh yeah, I'd look at it turn away. Because it hurts. Because it's loud. They're literally sound waves. Why do you need that? Do you know how much false fear is put into women with because of ultrasounds? They will tell you, oh yeah, your baby's measuring big through an ultrasound, but they can be up to 2 pounds off in either direction. And I forget how many exact inches it is, but I remember clearly when I was studying it, 2 pounds. Do you know how many people I know were told that? I can name 3 people that told me directly in person. This isn't internet stories. I mean, I probably read 50 internet stories at least just on Instagram about this, but 3 in person. They were told via ultrasound their baby would be extremely disformed and medically retarded and that they should abort. And their doctors constantly, you need to abort this baby. It's barely going to make it. It has all these things. This isn't measuring right. This, that. The mother said, it doesn't matter. I'm going to love my baby anyway. I'm having this baby. Do you know that their babies were born in perfect health and perfect condition? Ultrasounds don't make anything true and they don't make anything safer. They're a fucking illusion. You know what is going on in your body more than a fucking ultrasound. Put your hands on your belly and communicate with your own baby. Feel it moving. What do you feel like all the time? What foods are making you feel good? What are making you not feel good? If you're eating a wholesome diet, I was eating nose to tail. Tons of fruit, starchy stuff like breads and pastas and all that gave me the worst heartburn. I stayed away from it. I could eat fruit and meat. So I was pretty much animal-based my whole pregnancy. I gained a ton of fucking weight because that's what my body does during pregnancy. And if I was in the medical system, they would tell me, oh, you're gaining way too much weight. There's not a perfect number. Some women gain 30 pounds. Some women gain 70. They eat good and exercise like I did. Every woman's body is different. Your body will gain the proper amount. I mean, of course, if you're eating shitty food all the time, that's different. But if you're eating healthy, your body will gain the exact amount it needs in order to birth that baby and what it needs to make the milk afterwards. And you have to trust your body to do that. Trust me, I know. The culture around this is a bitch. Both my pregnancies, it seemed like I was wearing a sign that said, please come up and tell me how big I am. I can't tell you how many women would come up to me and tell me how huge I am. And it looks like I'm having twins and would pop any day when I was like 5 months pregnant. It was seriously insane. And I'm not sure why this is a thing. You don't need to comment on a woman's body. This goes back to like what my first episode. Why is it a compliment when you see, oh, hey, did you lose weight? Like, what is the thing of always having to comment on a woman's body, especially when she's pregnant? Leave her the fuck alone. Tell her she looks like she needs a foot rub and buy her a pedicure. You don't need that. My prenatal care was in my own kitchen, baking everything from scratch, cooking from scratch, and setting up an altar. Of course, getting readings at my madrina. Shout out to Shari. My badass godmother who really got me in deep touch with my ancestors that I needed to. My Ryukyuan ancestors, it was originally a matriarchy there before Japan took them over. And the dreams and visions I had when she was channeling in my ancestors, she literally was saying everything that I had seen. And I didn't even tell her. And she doesn't know, no one knows Ryukyu. Come on. Like, nobody knows that. But the stuff she was saying was so accurate. I was like, wow, it was amazing. So I spent my time building my relationship with them and building an altar and just trying to remove myself from the stupid stresses of life. During the last few weeks, I could really feel the veil thinning. And I remember it was a full moon in Gemini. And there was so much movement in my belly, and I felt the veil getting really thin. I knew it was becoming closer to the time. I knew it wasn't going to be that day, but I knew it was getting closer. And going out in public was a trip. Like, it was really hard going through the grocery stores. I was so energy sensitive, and I didn't really want to be around anybody. So that's how I knew that the time was getting closer. I guess I'll get into the story now, and I have it written down because I wrote it down a couple days after giving birth so I wouldn't forget. So I'm going to read it from my journal. I'm trying to remember like what I would technically, how many, like I didn't care about, oh, how many weeks along are you or anything like that. I counted out 10 moons, and that brought me to the full moon in Cancer, which would be January 6th. So I knew it would be somewhere around that. Medically, that would put me at 42 and a half weeks. And this is why when they say, oh, at 40 weeks, you need to be induced, 42 weeks is dangerous, they count from your last period. So most of you, they're counting in weeks you haven't even ovulated, so you're not even pregnant. This whole system is based on you not even knowing your own body and your own ovulation. I track my ovulation, so I know it. And so that's how I was able to count like how many moons from when I ovulated. So I am going to now read my birth story. And on January 1st, my husband went up north, and I knew that he was going to leave. I was going to call my parents to come clean the house, and then he would get back and I would go into labor. Like, I knew that that's what was going to happen. He left on the 1st. On the 2nd, or that day on the 1st, I asked my parents if they would come clean the house for me. And so they came and they cleaned everything. I couldn't even walk at this point. My hip hurt so bad. I was so heavy at that point. I actually did weigh myself the morning that I felt like I was going into labor, because I wanted to know how much that I actually weighed. I never weighed myself with my first, but I knew I had gained equally a lot of weight, just because of like the way my body shifts so much. And, obviously, your own body. I was 222 pounds, 222 on the nose. And it just set me laughing because like that number had been coming up through my whole pregnancy, like on repeat. And so I was like, okay, like this is going to be the day. Like I know it. So anyway, so my parents came and they cleaned the house for me. I lit a candle. The next day, I just relaxed the rest of the night. The next day I called my dad, or did he call me? I can't remember. Maybe he called me and he wanted to know if Malachi wanted to get picked up. And I was like, yes, he needs to go. And it wasn't anything that I didn't want my son there, because I asked him if he wanted to be there for my birth. And he watched a ton of birthing videos with me, and he just thought it was fantastic. And I kept asking him, like, do you want to be there? Like, what do you want? And he's like, I don't know. It might scare me if you're screaming. Can I watch cartoons? And I was like, no, I don't want to hear cartoons. He's like, I don't know. Maybe I'll want to go to Papa and Goo So like, all right, we'll decide on that day. But anyway, so they came and picked him up, and I was having contractions that whole day. And when my dad was asking if he wanted to be picked up, I remember like I couldn't really even comprehend the question. And I remember like Malachi talking, and I was so like out there. I was like, yeah, just like come get him. And it wasn't like, oh, you're going to labor. He just wanted to know if you want to like come over and go in the pool. So he left for the day. And I told my husband, you need to blow the pool up. Like, this is going to happen, and we might as well be ready. So he blew the pool up. We just got, a blow up pool from Amazon. I'm really glad I got the one that I did though, because my hip was so like and sciatic were so messed up just from carrying all that extra weight at the end. Like it was really hard to like move around. We had gone swimming a couple days before that and it felt so good being in a pool of water. I was like, I am so glad I got a deeper tub so that like I can move around and it's not going to hurt as much, you know? I knew that once the sun was going to go down, that's when I was going to go into labor. Malachi had come back home. I don't really remember this in between period now. Like I kind of remember him coming home, and then this is where I'm going to start reading from my journal. Because now I can barely remember all of the details, so I'm glad I wrote it down like this. I highly suggest you write down your birth story, especially if you're giving birth at home, like within 48 hours, even if you feel too tired to. I'm glad I forced myself to do it. So at 9:07, I lost my mucus plug. It was amazing because I didn't experience that with Malachi. I didn't even experience my water breaking with him. Everything happened at once when I was in labor with him. Like he broke my water coming out. So again, they'll tell you in the hospital they need to break your waters. They do not. My baby broke the waters when he came out. So I lost my mucus plug at 9:07. It was amazing because I never got to experience that with M. It made me feel euphoric. I stretched it between my fingers for a while and took a pic, and I showed it to Joe. Contractions kicked up after that. I remember doing that too. Like I was so excited. Like I was stretching it between my fingers and I was like, oh my God, like I got to experience something I didn't last time. And it actually made me excited because I'm like, I hope I experience my water breaking. Like I want to experience everything I didn't get last time. So Malachi went to bed shortly after that. I put my headphones on. The waves were coming and I was moaning through them. The visuals with my eyes closed were amazing. So for those of you that don't know, when you start going into labor, DMT starts releasing in your brain. And when you're left alone to be in the dark, you hallucinate, you go on an amazing trip. Okay. So people are out here buying fake DMT. Women get it for free. So when that's able to activate and you're really able to go into the spirit realm during that time, and it's fantastic. Okay. It's fantastic. Don't pass that up just because they tell you need to be in a hospital with blaring lights in your fucking eyes. I don't know how anyone gives birth in that situation like a caged animal. I'm sorry. The visuals with my eyes closed were amazing. I put on the doors, break on through, and the biggest waves at the end, and I had the biggest waves at the end of the music. Wonderwall came on, and I had it playing through my phone, and I cried holding Joe's hand. I do wish I kissed him during this. I was in another realm, and I felt like I couldn't move or talk. My contractions were around 4 minutes apart. Joe was timing them. At some point, he noticed they were about 2 minutes apart, so he started to fill up the tub. I was playing native flute music at this point, moaning louder with each contraction. I could see them with my eyes shut like a roller coaster. It was amazing, you guys. Like, I remember the contraction would come through and like it was these colors, and it really it made me feel like I was riding this color on a roller coaster, and it would get really, really strong, and then when it would release, I'd feel like I was going down the roller coaster. It was such a trip. I got in the pool at 12:07 a.m. It felt fucking incredible. So much body pain went away. It gave me a little break. They started up again, and I was able to switch positions a lot easier in the water, especially with my bad hip. At 1:53 a.m., my water broke. I never felt something so amazing. Such a release. I reached down and some of the amniotic sac was there. I couldn't stop playing with it and smiling and laughing. I finally got to experience it. I didn't want to let go of it. I remember looking at my husband and like stretching it, and I was like, oh my God, this is fucking incredible. Look at this. Like, all of my contractions stopped for a few minutes after that happened. And I just laid back and I was like stretching this piece of sack, and I was so blissed out in that moment. Like, this is my fucking body. Like, my body is fucking amazing. And I remember not wanting to let go of it. I'm like, I don't want this moment to end right here. I'm so happy. I'm holding amniotic sac. Like I just didn't want that one moment to end. Oh, but it did. This really brought on the contractions stronger. I started to feel like I couldn't take it. I began throwing up. This also happened in my first labor. And let me tell you guys something. So I have a hard time of letting go of control. And if you're somebody like this, you will throw up because birth gets you to a point where you have to completely let go and you have to surrender to it. You have to surrender to the pain. You have to surrender to the goddess. And I have a hard time with that initially. I throw up because of it. It's the same reason why when you're in plant medicine ceremonies, you throw up. It's because there's stuff for you to purge and you don't want to, you want to hold it in. It's the same exact reason why you do when you're taking ayahuasca. I kept telling myself to let go, just give up, let all the vomit and all the shit come out because that happens. I remember being hung, like I was hanging halfway over the tub and I just surrendered. I was like, just whatever, everything needs to come out. I'm purging myself of my old life. I'm getting rid of it. I'll pee it out, poop it out, vomit it up. I don't care. Just let it go. And I did. Joe kept encouraging me, especially because I started feeling like I couldn't. I wanted to escape the pain. I wanted to be saved. All the options ran through my head, but this is how I knew I was close. So at this point, I asked him to go on YouTube and put on birth mantras for me. And he did. I don't remember what he put on. I don't even remember what this woman was saying. But as soon as I heard the woman's voice, I felt so relieved and so calm. And I knew everything was going to be okay and I had nothing to be afraid of and the pain wasn't going to break me and it wasn't going to kill me and I was going to live because it was so painful and I didn't want to run from the pain. I know that there's all kinds of birthing methods out there and people talk about pain-free birth and all of that, but I did not want to hide from that pain. And I knew if there was a lot of pain, I was facing fear and I needed to do that. It was part of my own empowerment. And I remember thinking in that moment, what am I afraid of it within myself? Why do I think I can't do this? I'm afraid of my own self. Why am I afraid? And as I was letting that go, when I heard that woman's voice, I don't know how to describe it other than angelic peace came over me. And this is why birth belongs to women. Now, I don't ever plan on having more babies, but if I were to get pregnant and have another one, I would have a woman there. For me, I needed that feminine energy in the room. I myself operate in very masculine energy, and I'm always trying to counterbalance that and go back into my feminine. And because my mind wanted to keep going back masculine, because masculine is about control. So it wanted to keep going back there. I needed that feminine energy to pull me back and be like, no, just go into the feminine. This is just going to happen. You don't need to do anything. And it worked. I started to become fearful of the pushing because I knew what that meant, absolute pain. But I could feel his head descending. So this is an interesting point. So my first midwife and my first birth, she would use the Doppler to see how far down the baby was descending. And I noticed a distinct difference when it was just me because I paid attention. I wasn't outsourcing that to somebody. And I could feel his head going lower and lower and through my vaginal canal. And I felt so empowered in that moment that I knew exactly where my baby was in my body, and I knew exactly what was happening. And it wasn't because somebody was telling me what was happening. It's because I knew. I suddenly hated the water. I told Joe I wanted to get out of the tub. He started getting stuff ready, and suddenly I felt my body do one huge push, and I felt the fire. I told Joe his head is coming, and I screamed bloody murder. It was weird because I felt the pain, but I didn't. It was like I left my body and watched myself do this. This is where I split in two and the new me is born. His head came out. Joe reached down and felt it. It has a full head of hair, he said. I smiled and said, okay, this is my break. Get ready because he's going to come out next. So I knew once the head comes out, you get a little break usually to prepare you for the rest. See, your body knows when to give you rest. When you're fucking shot up with Pitocin, it super contracts your uterus so you don't have real contractions. They're forced contractions. You're at risk for your uterus rupturing because it's overworking. And then you have even a higher risk of bleeding out because your uterus can't properly contract afterwards because it's too tired. Your uterus knows when to contract and when to give you rest so you don't have issues and so that you can do it and get breaks. So his head came out and I was like, get ready. Like, this is it. This is my break. His body's going to come out. I didn't do much pushing. There was a couple times in this labor where I actually felt like to push. I think twice. But my body did everything. I didn't do nothing but scream. I felt my body push and he torpedoed out of me. Joe caught him and bring him to me. I told him to unwrap his cord as I saw it was all around his body. Joe said it was also around his neck. I rubbed his back and he started to cry. I leaned back and I looked at Joe and said, I did it. I did it. And I looked at the baby and said, I'm going to be the best mom to you. You just wait. It was 3:53 a.m. I forgot to write this one part in here. I'm going to have to go back and add it because this journal will be here forever. First of all, let's talk about the fact that your cord being wrapped around your baby's neck is not a medical emergency. I don't care how many times it's wrapped around your baby's neck. Your baby breathes through the umbilical cord, not its nostrils. The problem is that the doctors cut the cord as soon as possible so they can steal your baby's blood. And no, it's not cord blood, it's your baby's blood. All that blood belongs to your baby. And they cut the lifeline. The umbilical cord and the placenta is the lifeline. Your baby can be born with a wrapped cord. My cord was all over my baby's body. There was also a knot in the cord. I discovered that at the end, and that was pretty cool. But it was wrapped it was around, I remember seeing it around his chest and shoulders, and then my husband said when he grabbed him, it was also around his neck, and he unwrapped him, and that was it. We went on. He placed him on my chest, and I said to him, I'm going to be the best mommy to you. And the craziest thing happened. He was laying on my chest and he all of a sudden just lifts his head up and he looks up at my husband, into my husband's eyes, who's standing behind me on the outside of the tub. And he just pops up, looks at my husband, and then drops his head back down on my chest. And I was like, oh my God. Like he looked for dad. Like he saw you. Like babies are aware of so much. Shortly after that, Malachi suddenly popped his head in and says, can I see the baby? He slept through all of that screaming that I did. But he woke up, he said, because the baby cried. He came in and saw him. Joe helped me onto the bed. After about 10 minutes, I wanted to birth the placenta. Knowing I wasn't done yet was bothering me. I gave the cord a little tug and it came right out. Malachi watched. I put it in a bowl. After about 2 hours or so of just laying there in bed, we decided to cut the cord. We bought a special knife. So I know a lot of you know that, especially listening to my last episode, we thought that we were going to have a girl. And Joe ordered a special knife and said that we're going to cut the cord with this knife, and a pocket knife, and we'll give it to her when, she's of age, so she can have the knife that she was brought to earth with. And I thought that was an awesome idea. And he said, but if it's a boy, I'm using my K-bar, which was what he carried around in the Marines with him. So I said, okay, deal. So when we found out it was a boy, he was obviously over the moon. He's like, I'm going to get the K-bar. So he went and got the K-bar, and that's what he cut the umbilical cord with. After that, the rest seems fuzzy. I remember M sitting next to me. I was keeping the baby on my chest to ensure that I was good. Then I remember seeing Joe sitting on the other side of the room. I told him to get over here and see his son. He said he was trying to let me do my thing. I told him I wanted him near us. We all snuggled in bed for a while. Malachi started talking a lot, so Joe put him back to bed for me. I needed that. The baby latched right away once Malachi was gone. We fell asleep with the baby between us. My milk came in on the Cancer full moon, January 6th. That's it. That's my free birth story. It was amazing, and I wouldn't have had anything different of what went on. It's so empowering. I really encourage you, if you're pregnant or deciding to get pregnant, to really consider this option. There are a ton of resources out there. You don't need a doula. You don't need a midwife. It's okay if you want somebody there at your birth to support you at your birth, but you shouldn't be anywhere where someone needs to advocate for your own safety and your own want. It's dangerous to enter into the medical birthing system. And I will argue for that again with anybody. You can birth at home. You don't need a bunch of made up diagnoses that are going to make you stress out your entire pregnancy and every time you go to the doctor. If you're interested in hearing more women's story on free birth, I highly suggest the Freebirth Society podcast. I spent a lot of my pregnancy, well, maybe like all of my first trimester and into my second, I nonstop listen to their stories because it's just so empowering to hear other women. We should all be telling our stories. We need to be sharing everything. Our empowerment, our abuse stories, everything. The biggest thing they did to women was keep us separated because now they can get away with anything. They want us to stop talking, and we can't let that happen. But I listened to all of these stories, and they were all so empowering. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I am filled with the stories, and now I need to start writing my own. And I did a lot of meditating of how I wanted to experience birth. And it's not like I was thinking, oh, this is how it's going to go, but I knew the energy that I wanted to be in. And I'm glad that I did that. And I was able to, for the most part, keep my experience where I had been meditating. There's nothing better than birthing your baby and just staying in bed in your own home and not leaving. I did my 40 days in the house, and I walked up and down my street a little bit and stuff, but I was still so sensitive. Even after the 40 days, it was really hard going in public. I'm really grateful that I got to honor myself during this birth, and I had women taking care of me. My friend Katie brought me a chicken, like a live chicken. Her name's Elvira. She's a Polish. She is our dumbest chicken. She can't see anything and just kind of runs around in circles. She's a hoot to watch. We had a possum break into our chicken coop, and she laid down next to it. But she's obviously one of my favorite chickens because she's my birth chicken. And I will always remember that Katie is the one that gave me my birth chicken. And of course it would be her. And she didn't even come inside. She left me gifts of diapers, wipes, and a chicken and a cat carrier at my front door. And I will never forget that. And Trisha flew all the way out to me from Arizona with a one-way ticket to take care of me for as long as I wanted, to help me and do what I needed done around the house so that I could relax. Now, it's very hard for me relaxing with other people in my house, so I don't even remember how long she stayed for. Like, that part is such a blur, but her help was like it was so nice just being able to lay in bed and just be with my baby and not have to worry about if Malachi is eating or like what's going on in my home in general. When she did leave, I remember Malachi cried because he was like, who am I going to play with? And so, this is why community is so important. And this is why women need to talk. And this is why women need to hear each other's birth stories, and that why we need to talk about our problems and things we're going through, because then we'll be there for each other and have each other's back. And we can care for each other like we need to be cared for, because it does take a fucking village. And this is why parenting is becoming harder and harder, because women are more and more alone in the society we live in today. And we really do need to get back to just being with each other and relying on each other. And women absolutely need to take birth back, because there's nothing more rebellious and there's nothing more wicked than saying fuck the system and birthing your own baby in power. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you want to learn how to become even more wicked, check out School of the Mystical Arts, where you will find me daily teaching and connecting. Be part of a community filled with other badass women supporting each other and manifesting their dreams. SchoolofTheMysticalArts.com. A link to a 3-day free trial is in the show notes. I'll see you there.